Hello friends, and welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we are going to talk about some great ideas, best plants to create a privacy screen at your house, because we hear it all the time here at Creekside Nursery. I love my neighbors, but right? So there is that but. They want to have a nice division between their yard and their neighbor's yard. And so today we are going to give you options for that beautiful privacy screen created with plants. So instead of a wooden fence, maybe you have to have a wooden fence, but maybe you want to have in front of it something to make it look attractive and beautiful and build that garden. So we are here to help you, give you ideas. Now, we're going to give you ideas and we're going to go through and talk about specific plants. Is this an all-inclusive list? Absolutely not. There are tons and tons of options out there. So if you have ideas, those plants that you love, we would love it if you would add them in the comments below. That way other people can learn from your experiences. We're going to have some for full sun, part sun, and shade. A little bit of everything. So first of all, when we're talking about a privacy screen, so many times these new neighborhoods are very tight and they're very close to each other, and your backyards or your front yards, they really are flowing into one another. So by using plants to create that division, it's a nice way to say I love you, but yet I want to create some space between us. And so whether you are in that tight neighborhood, maybe there is this plant that you are not familiar with. What am I talking about? I'm talking about American pillar. And so American pillar is a very upright, it can be in that kind of, at maturity, they say like 25 feet tall, but I'm thinking somewhere in that 18, 20-ish foot tall, but it's going to be nice and narrow. So about that 4 foot wide at maturity. I'm a huge fan of thuja green giants. We have them in our yard, but the thing about thujas green giants is that the base can get 15 feet wide or bigger. And when you have maybe a small yard, you don't want to give up all of that real estate. So that's where the American pillar comes in. So it is going to be upright and tight. So I will say this about the American pillar, and I've heard this from other nurserymen in the industry, is that it seems that American pillar, it takes it a little bit of time to get happy and get established in the garden. So you're going to want to kind of be patient with it, give it a year or two to get its roots established, and then once it's happy and it knows that this is home, then it will really start growing. So this is one that kind of hangs out for the first year or two, and then it will start growing. So what we're going to do is maybe you want to have a whole screen of them. If you want to do that, great, you can absolutely do that. But I'm of the mindset of why just have one plant? Let's put in other plants with it to give us color and texture and movement and flowers, those 4 seasons of interest. Because while American pillar is great, it's just going to be a green tree. Like, it's not going to really change. It's not going to give us flowers. It's not going to give us fragrance. And it's going to stay that lovely green throughout the entire year. So let's pair some other things with it. So here in the South, we do love our loropetalums. So loropetalums are going to be this beautiful, really nice, dark, deep purple foliage, right? So you can see here, this color contrast is lovely. You have got not only color contrast, but the shape of the plant is completely different. American pillar, very upright, very narrow. Your loropetalum is going to be more mounded, kind of more of a weeping habit. Now, there are a gazillion, and that's an official count, a gazillion different types of loropetalums out there. So it is going to completely depend on your space and the look that you want and where you're going to put it in your flower bed as to which cultivar you're actually going to go ahead and decide to get. So here I have the Jazz Hands Pink. So Jazz Hands Pink is going to be 3 to 5 tall and wide. That's a nice moderate size for a loropetalum. Purple Daydream is another great option. It is nice and petite. It's going to be in that 2 by 2 size. We have some loropetalums at our house, y'all, Swanee. They're about, oh gosh, I don't know, like 15 by 15. They're huge. Now, they're in front of the Thuja Green Giants, so it makes a beautiful, perfect screening. However, if you have a narrow yard, those would not be good options for you. This is going to be for full sun. Loropetalums and your American pillars love that nice, intense sun. And then also with your loropetalums, no matter really what variety or cultivar you're going to get, they are going to bloom for you. So they're also known as Chinese French flowers because their flowers are going to be, most of the time, they're a nice, rich, kind of like hot pink. There are different colors. Some of them are white, but they look like they've been shredded. So a Chinese, they look like little fringes flower. Typically, they will bloom in that January, February time for us, late winter, right before spring hits, and they will be covered. So loropetalums are going to be another great option, super low maintenance. As far as pruning, American pillar, loropetalum, you could easily never prune either one of these. Just leave them alone. That's why when you are creating your privacy screen, I highly encourage you to think, what is the maximum space, really width-wise, that you want to have plants in? So let's say it's 10 feet, okay? So let's say it's 10 feet that you're saying at maturity, I do not want anything hanging over the sides. This basically is going to be a great 10 foot. If this gets 4 foot wide, this gets 5 feet wide. That's a total of 9 feet altogether, and you got a little bit of wiggle room on the end, right? Now, let's say that you're like, well, I love the idea of the evergreen, but I really want to have some summer color in there. Well, this is what we're going to do. You can pick a hydrangea. Let's say you love hydrangeas. It could be roses. It could be whatever it is that's flowers. It could be gardenias. It does not matter. But here I have the Incredible Stormproof. So Incredible Stormproof would work really well in this combination because, again, it loves the sun, so we have all of the same sun requirements, right? That is a key. And then your Incredible Stormproof, which is new, and it has the most lovely little sweet fragrance to it. The pollinators love it. This is basically going to be a 4x4. So it's going to be a little bit shorter than your loropetalum. So what I would do is you've got the American pillars in the back, and then you can alternate between your loropetalums and your hydrangeas. So you've got this color combination and texture difference, going to be roughly about the same size, but you can alternate them, and that way you can still keep it within your 10-foot range. Now, like I said, there are tons of different options for you as far as the hydrangeas go. Think about your sun though. Sun is so important, especially for us in the southern region. If you're in a cooler region, if you're in Michigan or you're in Ohio or you're in, I don't know, New Hampshire, right? I'm thinking cooler areas, upper parts of Virginia that are nice and cool. Then you can have more leniency as far as like what kind of sun your plants get. Because there are going to be some plants that need that shade. They need a break from the hot afternoon sun. Perfect example. One of my favorite plants, relatively new on the market, is this dog hobble. This is a Lacothi. This is paisley pup. So for my shade people, you have got great options of beautiful evergreen shrubs that you can have color and texture and, yes, privacy within your shade garden. You're naturally, because if you have shade, that means you already have some trees. You have something to give you shade. And you can plant underneath those trees, watching out for your roots, because we want to make sure that these shrubs can have plenty of water and nutrients, because that can be the trouble with shade gardens, right? You've got these big, beautiful trees that give you that shade, but with the big, beautiful trees come big, beautiful roots that like to suck all the water and the nutrients out. So paisley pup dog hobble is a native shrub. You get 3 colors on it. It is green, it is kind of that creamy yellow, the new foliage is pink. Even the new stems have a pink hue to it. This is a lovely, easy, low maintenance plant, hardy in zones 5 to 8, and it will get 4 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide. So you're going to have some nice presence with this shrub. It is that perfect for those borders and those low hedges. You can use it as one, you could use it as a mass planting. And it also has very high deer resistance. So we see a lot of that times in the shade gardens. We also have the deer pressure. And in fact, Proven Winners has added this to their deer proof line. So that's how confident they are that the deer will leave this alone. So what are you going to pair with your paisley pup? So I think about my shade gardens. So I think about maybe like the Florida Sunshine, right? That Elysium, that is a beautiful chartreuse yellow. It is an anise, so when you crush the leaves, it gives off that licorice smell, which also then translates and makes it a little bit more deer resistant. Deer tend not to like those plants. Also, as a Southerner, I can't help but think about camellias, right? So whether they are the fall bloomings like the sasanquas that love the more shade areas, or if you want to do japonicas that bloom later on in the season, beautiful evergreens that give you flowers. And there are fragrant camellias. Again, there are thousands upon thousands of different cultivars of camellias. Visit your local garden center and pick out the one that best suits you. So that's what I'm thinking when I think of a shade garden for privacy. We've got maybe some taller camellias. You've got the Florida Sunshines. You have got the paisley pup. All of these are great evergreens with color and interest. Now, those of us that typically are blessed with a ton of sun in our garden, you too can have camellias in your full sun garden. So you've got Southern Living has the October Magic series, which I love and adore because they absolutely can take full sun. I have got many of their varieties in full sun and they are currently in bloom and absolutely gorgeous. If you're looking for maybe something a little different, or particularly if you're not a deep southern person that can grow camellias very easily, if you're in a cooler zone, then Proven Winners has come out in the last couple of years with the Just Chill series. So this is actually Just Chill Red Tip. So Just Chill Red Tip was the first one to come out, and guess what? When it puts on new growth, guess what color it is? That's right, my friends, it is red. So you will have these literal red tips with the foliage. So the Just Chill series, and they have added multiple different colors to them. Again, I have one in my garden and she is beautiful and thriving in horrible red clay that gets hot afternoon sun and she is blooming. It is fantastic. So the Just Chill series though is going to be more upright. Roughly going to be hardy in that 7A, 6B. So what I would encourage you, if you want to try it, you're a 6A, you're a 6B, try to put it in that microclimate of your garden that gets protection from the winter winds, right? So that the hottest area that has some protection from the winter winds. So how are you going to give this protection, right? So if you already have some establishments, then this would be great. But we're talking about privacy screening and creating privacy. So this is going to be a fast-growing camellia, very upright and very narrow for a camellia. Going to be in that 5 to 6 foot range, 3 to 4 wide. So what are we going to pair with this? Well, what we can pair with it is like you've got the North Pole arborvitae. Now again, I do love North Pole arborvitaes. I love all arborvitaes. But this one is going to be a nice fast grower as well. And while the tag says it's hardy in zones 3 to 7, I can attest as an 8A, we have these in 2 locations of our gardens and they are thriving. Even though it says zone 7, 8A, you absolutely can do North Poles with in our zone. But it is going to be different, say, than American Pillar in that you can just tell by its habit. Already in the beginning, it's going to be thicker and it is going to be fuller. It is going to be a little bit shorter, so it maxes out at 15 feet tall. and it can be a little wider at 5 feet wide. So there are differences, and this is where it truly depends on your space as to which one you want to go with. This can do full sun to part shade, and of course you get that beautiful evergreen foliage to it. We have never pruned ours. There's no need to, because it just grows in this beautiful habit to it. As a side note, if you notice, both the North Pole and the American Pillar have some brown foliage inside of them. This is completely normal this time of year where we are. So I have got my Thuja Green Giants, we have got Cryptomeria in the back, we have got the North Poles, the American Pillars. This is what they do kind of at this time. Just like pine trees will lose their pine needles in the fall, they also will lose and shed some of their foliage. It's okay. Everything is completely normal. As long as the plant is getting the adequate water that it needs, you don't need to worry. Everything will be fine. And come spring, trust me, everything will flush out even thicker and come back beautiful. Now, are you going to lose all this foliage? Absolutely not. But I just don't want you to freak out if you notice some of your evergreens on the inside are turning a little brown and dropping some foliage to it. It is completely normal. So your North Poles would be a beautiful, if you want to do a straight screen, you absolutely can. That's what we did at the end of the berm, but that separates the house and the nursery. We did, I believe it was 7 or 8 of the North Poles, and we did 2 rows, and we window paned them, meaning that we staggered them, because down on the corner of the the privacy berm, we wanted to have kind of a block when we're sitting on the porch that we maybe don't see straight through to the greenhouse and the nursery. So we have a nice block of them, and then we have other shrubs around them. So North Pole arborvitaes. Now, for my folks who are in, maybe you have some weird sun conditions, or maybe you're like, Jenny, I don't have time. I just got new neighbors, or I just moved into this house, and maybe you just don't like your neighbors. Maybe that's the problem, and you need a privacy screen as fast as you possibly can with shrubs. So let me introduce you to Chindo viburnum. Now, Chindo viburnums, again, we too have them in our landscape here at the nursery, and let me tell you, they are fast growers. They don't mess around. They are great because they can do anywhere from full sun to definitely more shadier conditions. Ours get, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe 4 hours of morning sun, and then because they're underneath trees, and then they go into the shade. They are growing like weeds in the best way possible. So Chindo viburnums are going to be that nice glossy green leaves. Once they are established, they are very drought tolerant. They're going to get wide. Ours tend to be kind of a bit like of an egg shape, if that makes any sense, a little bit wider, and then they kind of go up a little bit. As mine are growing, I do keep them kind of topped off. So once a year, I will go through and trim off and trim down those stems that are really going up, because I want to keep them thick, right? I don't want them to get really thin that you can see through them. I want them to stay thick. So you've got a beautiful selection and with this Chindo viburnum. Now, Chindos will get to be a good size, 6 to 8 wide and kind of 10 to 15 feet tall. Fast growers. So if Chindo is going to be too big, then I would encourage you maybe check out Yardline viburnum. So Yardline is going to be still all the same great characteristics of Chindo: fast grower, drought tolerant, more deer resistant, full sun to part shade, but it's going to be about half the size. So it's not going to be nearly as wide. It's going to be about 3 to 4 feet wide as opposed to 6 to 8, and it's going to be a little bit shorter than a Chindo. So it kind of gives you an idea. It actually has Chindo bloodline in it, and so they mixed some different viburnums together and they came up with the Yardline. Now, those of you that are dealing with deer, we talked about that the Paisley pup is a great option for you. Another great pairing that you can use really with like this whole combination right here. So you could do North Poles and Chindos and your your sun-loving camellias and your sun-loving hydrangeas with, this is one of my new favorite plants. It's not new, it's just new to me, is the Montana moss. Now, this is a juniper. And some of you may laugh and be like, Jenny, what in the world? Why do you love this juniper? Because I hate junipers. In fact, we had a fella here that was a former landscaper, and he couldn't stand junipers because of all the junipers he had to rip out of people's yards. So Montana moss is much more well behaved. This is a sun-loving juniper that is a fast grower. It has that blue foliage that is an evergreen, and it has it is deer resistant once it is established. And you think about the colors, like, right? So you bring this in, the blue to color and texture against the camellias or the North Pole or even the chindo. It is a completely different color and texture, and this baby is a fast grower. It will be about 4 feet tall and 5 feet wide, hardy in zones 4 to 9. Definitely needs the full sun. But I have this again in the garden, and I have been so impressed with how well it has grown, how fast it has grown. Have not had to prune it at all, but just gives me loads of color and interest in the garden, and it pairs beautifully with all of these. Now, sometimes we like for our privacy screenings to have a little fun and a little funkiness to it. So if you are one of those gardeners that likes the fun and the funky, let me introduce to you yet another different type of arborvitae. So arborvitae, of course, we love and adore them because they are evergreen. You really don't prune them. They have high deer resistance. You just kind of leave them alone. Well, this is Sting. And Sting, she's going to be fun, or he's going to be fun, because this baby, y'all, can be 20 feet tall, 1.5 feet wide. That's right, 20 feet tall, 1.5 feet wide. So if you want to do a whole hedge of stings, you could. Probably wouldn't recommend it because they don't get very wide. But if you're looking to if you have that narrow space and you want that arborvitae that's in there, maybe you don't want American pillar, or you don't want North Pole, you want something super skinny that gets tall, a fun accent, then Sting is going to be the one for you. It is a very cool plant. I would consider it more of an accent plant within your privacy screening than a whole hedge of them. It is going to, of course, give you that beautiful evergreen color. It is native, it is very narrow, and has that unique texture to it. Hardy in zones 3 to 8, needs a minimum of 4 hours of sun. So you've got great options as far as your sun, your part sun, you name it, there are tons of options. But when you're looking at privacy screenings, what I would highly recommend is, yes, again, you can go for a single planting if that's what you're looking for. But in my opinion, there are so many amazing plants out there. Why just choose one? Let's go with a bunch of them, knowing what your maximum spacing is going to be as far as your width, and then we work with that. You absolutely can put all sorts of alternative plants and alternate them all the way down through to give you that beautiful privacy screening that gives you color and interest and texture and movement within your garden for 4 seasons of the year. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you have, again, any ideas or plants that you have used for your privacy screens, we would love it if you would share with the community. Just stick it in the comments below. As always, we hope that you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational. If you have, we would love it if you would like and subscribe to Gardening with Creekside. That way you don't miss those 5 videos that we do each and every week. Y'all have an amazing day. We will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.